anthology series. I was a huge fan of the first season, and then I found out that you were going to be in the second season of it, and as excited as I was to watch it, I was yet more excited to watch you play Rita Castillo.
Thank you.
A few of you have already watched it, right? Okay. Yeah. Well, we've got some Paramount Plus subscribers out there. We got some Star Trek nerds. You already have access to it. Watch it as soon as you can.
Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus. Let me ask you, what is it like getting a project like Why Women Kill offered to you? In what form was it put in front of you?
Well, I auditioned for it. So, as much as I'd love to say I was offered it, I was not. Mark Cherry, I don't believe, well, he may have been familiar with my work, but Eva Longoria, who is a friend of mine, actually mentioned me for this role because it was originally created for Eva. And as you know, Mark and Eva go way, way, way back. So she did say, I don't want to do this, but I would love to direct, which she did. She directed episode 4. She said, however, one of my dear friends would be perfect for this role, and brought my name to Mark Cherry, and then I got a call and they said, we'd love to see her for this. So I auditioned, and I felt really connected to Rita immediately. There's, you know, when projects come to the table, you can look at something and the words, sometimes when you're reading a script, you're like, I've got to read this a couple of times, I'm not really connecting to it. That's not what happened with Why Women Kill. When I read it, I was like, oh yeah, this is my part. I knew immediately. And we began the process of auditioning, and a couple of the producers didn't know who I was. But Mark Cherry said, as soon as he saw my reading, he's like, you were my choice immediately. And then, yeah, that was it. I started working on the show, and it was incredible. Jennifer Goodwin is in season 1. And so I was familiar with the show because of her. And when I officially booked it, she called me. She's like, I've been dying to call you. Oh my God, you're gonna love this job. I said, oh, thank you. I've been dying to call you. But like, we don't want to jinx it, right? Everyone's superstitious. So you wait for the official, she got the role, to start making calls and opening the bottle of champagne. But yeah, so Jenny said, you're gonna love it. Everyone's incredible. Mark Cherry's an amazing producer. You're gonna feel like you're back in the theater. And that's exactly what it felt like. Once upon a time, it didn't feel like that at all. It did not feel like theater. It felt very much like movie magic. But working on Why Women Kill, it felt like I was back in the theater. And a lot of the actors who were hired were all theater actors. Really great theater actors. So it was awesome to be in that community.
You hate that role, sis! You hate that role!
I hated something?
No, you hate that role.
Oh, I hate it! I hate it. I almost dropped my coffee and said, no, this ain't really it.
I tried to show the wrong thing backstage. Frankly, if somebody wants to bring me some Starbucks while I'm
As I'm
something.
speaking, I'm like, yep, that's a word, that's a word, that's a word.
This is how you talk to you.
It's happening, okay.
Speaking of some theater actors, your co-star Allison Tolman, like yourself, one of my favorite actors working these days. Watching the two of you play opposite each other, you get the fun of the kind of inflected 1940s speech. You're wearing amazing clothes. Amazing.
Best I've ever looked, even as LANA.
That's it.
God, my wardrobe is so drab next to Rita's.
So coming to work each day, you said that there was much more of a theatrical, true kind of a feel to everything, without spoiling things necessarily. What are some of the things that you enjoyed the most about this work? One of the things I love in the writing is that it really digs into the notion of women's work and invisible work and things that aren't necessarily considered by the domestic partners, and just how much was on women's shoulders at the time. It's been discussed, of course, but it's something that bears the kind of emphasis that the show gives it.
Right, well, I mean, back in the 40s, like, booking this role made you have to go back and look at history and, like, all the events that took place throughout history, like with the Prohibition and, World War II, etc., and how these events influenced the character. So I took all of that into consideration. Rita Castillo, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but she has a little bit of a shady past. She is a woman, did not, at the time, in the 20s and 30s, didn't have a lot of options. So her choice of work was really different than or not. I think a lot of women back in the day that weren't like political figures and that were like trying to, fight for women's rights were seamstresses. They were working girls, as I like to put it. Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, the show itself really touches upon what it means to be beautiful and powerful, and how that affects society, and the facades that people portray, that they put out in the world, and the hidden truths behind those facades, and like what can how do we influence each other? How do we affect one another? And my character in relation to Alma Philcott, who's played by Allison Tolan. Allison's character was enthralled by Rita. She was almost in love with her, and not in a romantic sense, but she idolized her. She wanted to be her. Often that happens in life. And we create monsters in people, and they can do really crazy things, hence the title, Why Women Kill. So it's a really cool show. A lot of them have asked me, what have you been doing since launch? And I've been doing a lot. I've been developing, but I've also been, playing on this new show that you can find on Paramount Plus, and I think you'll really love it. And it's very different. Everyone thinks, oh, she's playing another villain.
There are layers and layers and layers, and
Yes.
they assume so much because of the performer, but trust me,
And the title.
and the title. But it's really glorious. I've got one more for you, and I want to turn it over to the audience. We've got a Q&A mic set up right here, so go ahead and start lining up. I promise it won't be a long one. Well, on the other side of Why Women Kill, and of course we all know you so well from Once Upon a Time. I first came to know you from Spin City, where you were a delightful, new presence to drop into a show that I already love. What is it that interests you the most? What kind of work do you want to do? What is it that's important to you in terms of prioritizing your life as an artist? The stuff that you're developing, the stuff that you're looking at, what really grabs your attention?
Well, there's a few different things that grab my attention. I will say that being on a show like Once Upon a Time that has influenced so many people is really inspiring. Because I think as an actor, you don't think, oh, I want to play roles that are going to change people's lives and become a role model to these people. I don't think I ever approached my career that way. But being on a show that had like a moral lesson, and people looked up to these women as like, wow, these are empowering, inspiring, respectful women. I want to be that. I'd like to play roles like that again, and create shows that have a really deeper message. And I'd like to do the opposite, which is like, I don't care about the message, I just want to play another badass, or it's just fun, and you can't do that in life and get away with it. So I love it. I thought about that the other day. I thought, well, I never played the villain prior to Once Upon a Time, and Once Upon a Time was my 7th series, and I had a whole career prior, and those roles were fun. They were a lot of fun, but God, it's good to be a villain. Gary Oldman plays an amazing villain, and I've always admired his work. And I love dramas, though. I love deep dramas and movies or shows that really focus on characters and family dynamics, etc. So I'd like to do more of those as well.
Let's turn it over to you, the fans, the reason we're here. What do you got?
Hi.
Well, I have a question about Once Upon a Time. When you were doing like CGI scenes, like taking some fire and having people, was it really, really weird on set?
Like, did I break a nail or anything? I chipped a nail. I was very upset. Those moments were so bizarre because when I first learned that I was ripping a heart out of someone's chest, it was my father's chest. And I don't think we even really had at the time decided how to kill someone. We thought like just ripping the heart out would do it. If you notice in the second episode, I didn't crush the heart. So technically, he would have still been alive. Did you ever catch that one? It was later that we decided that, you know, we could control the person by having their heart and doing all that. So that was like an evolution. But actually ripping the heart out of someone's chest was demonstration.
A lot of really interesting ASL gestures for an interesting thing.
I'm not trying to get in trouble there. Respect. But I will say that it's interesting because my hand went through a lot of armpits. And shoot from it at a side angle. And I would just literally, so if the camera was on this side, like it is now, I would do this, although his heart's on the wrong side. So I would do this and then pull it out. And then Props, who's the most adorable human on the planet, I would go like this, and he would be behind and put a heart in my hand. So yeah,
You're ready to rip someone's heart out. Just go for the armpit.
Hi, LANA.
Hi.
All right, so I have a wonderful question for you. So Regina, being the badass villain that she is, had imprisoned Belle to one day use her against Rumpelstiltskin. So, if Jefferson had never freed her at the end of season 1, at what point in the series do you think she finally would use Belle against Rumpel to get what she wants?
There's so many contingencies on it.
Because I spent so much time thinking about this. I mean, yes. Episode 14.3. I mean, I don't know. I don't know which episode or why. I can't even honestly remember all of it and how it unfolded. I know that she probably would have pushed her off, you know, the castle at some point. Or she just would have turned her into something and made him eat it. Like, here, happy birthday. Now that's a fun episode.
I mean, that's just as a one-off.
Yeah, I hear you. I wish I were a writer and I could come up with something really cool, but I have no clue how she would use Belle. I think she did a pretty damn good job, though, holding her hostage for so many years. Yeah. You're welcome. Sorry to disappoint. Hi.
So if you could take a couple of, maybe like a few of the characters that you've played in the past and stuck them in Storybrooke, who would you have chosen and like kind of what would they be doing against you?
I think Trina Decker would have handed out some special brownies. Like, can we all just get along? Here you go. Trina had her ways. I love her.
What was your favorite moment or favorite line as Regina? And if you have a favorite line, could you say any character?
Yeah.
In one moment, many years of the show, exactly one moment.
This is my happy ending. It's a little more guttural, I had to do a little vocal warm-up prior. But yeah.
You wore some pretty incredible costumes when you were on Once Upon a Time. Is there one in particular that stands out to you or is the most memorable to you?
And probably the one I was dripping sweat in the middle of July. It was my cover. Damn, I looked good. Yeah, she was, I couldn't move. I was able to get out of the carriage and just stand. And then move my arms around. And I was like, cut! And like 4 people would come help me back in the carriage. But it was heavy, and it's now in my closet. But that was one of the ones I took. amongst others. But it was beautiful, and ABC actually banned the costume because it came so low. It was down to here, and you can feel a little thigh boot. And I'm like, there's much to see. And then eventually we all had like really giant boobs because everyone had like push-up bras, etc. But in that season, yeah, they were like, it's too much, too revealing. So, but I do love it, and it's actually it was one of my favorite photo shoots that I did in that costume as well. I had like these jeweled neck thing, like necklaces. It was like 35 necklaces or something, all stacked in his hair and his headdress. And yes, the scars on my head from all the pins, but I do miss her. Thank you. You're welcome. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Fabulous. So you created such an incredible character with this role. And as an actor for you, what was the most challenging part about finding that characterization for yourself?
Finding a character, say that again?
Or just like becoming the character, like what was the most challenging
part?
Yeah, the most challenging part for you, like becoming Regina.
I think the most challenging part was not so much becoming her, it was continuing her story and how to make it fresh every time. You know, when you're on a show for 7 seasons, you're like, oh, I gotta do this more. And in hindsight, you're like, be grateful! You know, all the actors are like, oh my god, I'm so tired. And then they're like, oh, I'll take a commercial. You know, it's like, and I'm so grateful and was grateful during the show, but I do recall the biggest challenge was how do I make this fresh? And how do I, you know, like, how could I make this sound like I'm saying it for the first time every time? And I think that's the challenge. And what haven't I done that this audience hasn't seen? What can I do? And what can I bring, you know, differently to the character? And so that required a lot of crafting. And that I love. Yes. I even managed to bring Marilyn Monroe in her, and it was during the season 6 with Rumble as, you know, the queen when Regina splits herself. And I thought, well, the queen, back in all the flashbacks, wouldn't know who Marilyn Monroe is, but this queen does. And so I did a little Marilyn thing. I don't know if anyone ever got it, but it was as, you know, her as, anyway, it was hers with Rumble in like the farmhouse or something. I just remember that choice, so.
They're
I was
talking,
like, okay, weird.
so they're telling me we've got about 10 minutes left.
Oh,
I think we can get through everybody.
Yeah, I think we can.
We can blast through. Go for it.
What did you think of the ending of Once Upon a Time?
I thought it was great. I was sad that it ended. I would have loved for the show to continue, but I thought it was great. I think Adam and Eddie are 2 of the best writers in television, so yeah, I never question what they do. Hi.
Hi. So another TV like villain persona that I think is great is Addison on Grey's Anatomy. And I just wondered if you would ever consider doing something with Kate Walsh, who plays her.
I love Kate. Yeah. We share mutual friends, and so like anytime we see each other, it's like, oh yeah, you know, that kind of thing, but we don't hang out. But I'd love to work with Kate, and she's wonderful, and she's a good person.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So in Once Upon a Time, you had a lot of memorable outfits. But the question is, how long did it take you to get into those outfits?
Well, the outfits and the hair and makeup is about 3 hours. And you know, when crew calls at 7 a.m., your call's at 4 a.m.
Thank you.
4 a.m. with like, you know, mascara. Like, oh my god.
All right, Lana, here, 2 cups of coffee, 1 for each hand. We're gonna start bolting you in.
Exactly.
Once upon a time, you were like, your character's very like hatred, like and evil, like obviously she's very mean. Where did you pull that anger from?
Oh, if you only knew. I'm not gonna read my secrets, but you know. Just make good choices. And who you are today, over that person.
Way too short for this mic, but were you ever like secretly like best friends with any of